Beginning of the new year means new budgets. New budgets mean end of life and end of support replacements. Today, we're going to review how to quickly turn around old switches into new switches while saving the configs and show you a quicker way to deploy new switches going forward. Hey guys, welcome back for another episode. Today we're going to review how we can quickly deploy replacement switches for end of support hardware, and we can even utilize this same technique for deploying new switches into our environment. Let's quickly review what we got set up for this lab and we'll get right started. Okay, so today what we're going to be using is we're going to be using CML tied into my home lab network. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to use the PC that you see here that I'm working on as a TFTP destination to modify some files and to get what we need done. So if you look here to the screen, we have an old switch. Right now I'm just going to go to the console. We're going to hit enter. And we're going to do a quick show run just to show the configuration on the switch. As you can see, it's got a VLAN 200, it's got SSH, okay, it's got the VTY lines set up, and let me do one more, and if we do a show VLAN brief, you can see it's got several switches or several VLANs set up that way. All right, now over here you can see I don't even have this switch powered on. This is a brand new switch, never configured. But just to show it, I'm going to wipe the node, click OK, and we're going to go ahead and boot that up. While that boots up, we're going to go back over the old switch, set up some of our TFTPs so we can get that config file so we can put it on the new system. Okay, so we're back here at the old switch. The new switch is booting up right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a copy. We're going to copy the running config, right, to TFTP and my IP address of my local system. And let's just look at that real quick, make sure we're, yep, 0.44, okay. And right here, you can see I have a TFTP folder. So I'm gonna move that back across. I'm gonna go ahead and hit that. Yes, I want that remote host. Yes, the file name is gonna be old switch-config. And as you can see, it TFTP'd the old config over. Now, when we're looking at this old config, you can see it's very basic, right? It's got the VLAN 200 information, and that's about it. Okay. Oh, and the line console and the line VTY, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the host name. Okay. We're gonna change the host name to new switch. Okay. And this last port here, actually, let's look what else I got over here. What's this interface that I have connected? This interface I have connected is interface 3.3, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take this interface right here, right? And we're going to hit enter a few times. We're going to copy it. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact same thing. And it's going to be IP address. Oops. Actually, this is going to be IP ad, or yeah, we're going to do no switch port access, and then an IP address DHCP. Okay, now it's going to grab an exact IP address like this, right, for VLAN 200, but we're going to utilize this for DHCP, so it's going to grab something else. And then we're also going to do shutdown. We're going to shut down the VLAN 200 because we're going to be physically connected to interface 3.3. So we did that. Obviously, when you're going through, if you have any encrypted passwords, you have to change your encrypted passwords. If you're going to copy and paste, if you're doing TFTP, you don't have to worry about changing your encrypted passwords. IP route is there. Good, good. All right. So we're going to go ahead and save this file. And we are going to go back over to the old switch. And we're going to big T interface VLAN 200, and we're going to shut that interface down. Okay. Now, over here, what we're going to do is we're going to simulate as if this was an offsite location, right? And we just told the local contact to cable up a port from the distribution switch into our switch that when it's new, when it's going to be replaced, is not going to be utilized, which in this case is going to be gig 0 or 3.3. Okay. We go to the console, hit enable, right? And then we're going to go to config T. We're going to go to interface GI33. Sorry, I know I paused there for a second. I had to think of the interface. No switch port mode access, and then IP address DHCP. No switch port. There you go. IP address DHCP. Okay, so that we change it into a routed port, and that will grab an IP address. Let's make sure that command over here is the exact same. No, I think I put access for mistake. Yeah, so it should be no switch port. There we go. Right? Hey guys, so now you can see that the new switch is booted up. You might see the diagram changed a little bit. What I wanted to do is get an external connection into my network. That way it utilized my local DHCP server to simulate a DHCP server that you would have on site. And then we obviously made the connection to the distribution switch so it would be able to connect to it once we do program it. So we're going to do a quick enable. We're going to do a quick show run so you can see that this is a blank slate. Everything is blank minus the default banners that come with the overall DML images. So let's go ahead and go to config T, interface GI33, no switch port, because we're going to make it a routed port for this specific reason, or this specific lab, right? Then what we're going to do is we're going to do an IP address DHCP. We're going to flap it. That way it pulls, it definitely goes out and reaches a new address. Change state to up. Okay, it doesn't seem to be pulling an IP. Oops, go back to console. So let's go ahead and power this down. We're going to wipe it. I have this issue every once in a while when we may have external connectors. Wipe it. Hit OK. I go to edit config, bridge, and then we're going to boot it back up. See if it comes up and see if it gets us a IP address. There we go. There's an IP. So if we do this here, you can see we now have an IP. Config T, IP route. And what we're going to do is 192.168.0.1 is my default gateway. So we should be able to ping it. 192.168.0.1. Do Control A. We can go back to it. All right, let me do this. Let me power this switch down. I may be running out of resources. What I'm noticing is it's starting to ping every once in a while on my own PC. So I've shut that down. Now let's see if we can ping. All right. So I can't ping it, but let me try this. 44. Can't ping the default gateway, but it can ping my PC. That's all I need. What it's doing is it's just I'm running out of resources on my EML server. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a copy TFTP 192.168.0.44 and the switch name, but the file name. Gonna rename, hit the rename. We're gonna Control C over here. Oops. Over here. Paste this in, and we're gonna paste it to startup config. Oops. Gotta make sure I hit both of those backslashes. There we go. Everything transferred. And we're gonna do a show startup config. And as you can see in the startup config, it's got all the configuration that we pulled. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do a quick reload, confirm. So this is going to reload. I'm going to pause the video and we'll be right back. Okay guys, so as you can see, this has been booted up and it has actually went and got the new name. You can see it went to SSH version 2. It generated a self-signed certificate with 1024-bit RSA security based on our configuration we loaded in the startup. Now, what you can see is we did not have any VLANs, right? So I'm going to do that there. We're going to, let's see, the VLAN, oh yeah, so sorry about that. So the VLANs, if we do a show VLAN brief, show VLAN brief, right? You see we only have VLAN 200, which is the one we defined, okay? So I'm going to go to config T, interface GI 0/0, and I'm going to shut this down, okay? I'm going to boot this one back up, okay? So I can at least get to it and I can TFTP from it. But what I'm going to show you, excuse me, is how we can pull those VLANs over if they're not in the running config. Some iOSs, when you do the show running config, it will actually list all the VLAN creations in there. Some will not. If they don't, what you have to do is you have to TFTP that VLAN.dat file over and push that to the new switch as well. So let this boot up and we'll get right to it. Okay, so you can see that the old switch is booted back up. Right, we're going to do a quick ping 192.168.0.44. See if it pings my PC. Okay, so what I found is that the VLAN 200 was actually changed state to down. So now I can ping my laptop, and the laptop can ping that. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a quick TFTP. So it's going to be a copy, right? And then again, copy from, right? So we're going to do flash, and then we're going to do, actually we're going to do NVRAM, right? And it's going to be VLAN.dat, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to do TFTP, and it's going to be 192.168.0.44. Boom, VLAN.dat. It copied. Go over here. You can see the VLAN.dat file. and I'm going to open it with just a text editor. For this time, and you can't see anything in it, right? It has a little bit of unencrypted data, but most of it's encrypted. Okay, so we have that done. Now we're going to power this one down. And we should have done this before when we were pulling the information off. Honestly, I did forget, but that's why you guys were going to have this video, so you guys won't forget. We're going to no shut this interface to give us the connection back into the distro switch. Okay, we're going to end, and we are going to ping 192.168.0.44 one more time. We can get to it, so we're now going to TFTP. Oops, we're going to copy TFTP 192.168.0.44, and it's going to be vlan.dat, and we're going to copy that to nvram vlan.dat. And we're overwriting it. We did, and we're going to go ahead and do a write and a reload. So let's have this reload real quick. Once it comes back up, we will take a look at the configuration that's on there. Okay, so this switch is booted. We're going to do a quick enable, type in the password, show VLAN brief, and it should show us all the VLANs that we had created before. And as you can see, it does. VLAN 100, 152, 250, 350, and 4, right? So at this point, what you would do is during your change window, you'd go to config T, you would do interface GI 33, and you would shut that down, right? So you don't have your DHCP connection, and then you would just do an interface GI or interface VLAN 200, and you do a no shut and show IP interface brief, include unassigned. Right there is the IP address. You come over here and ping. Oh, right there, it's right up top. Boom. Okay guys, so as you can see, the config took upon the reboot once we loaded the vlan.dat, and then all you'd have to do during the cutover would be to remove your connection for the DHCP and establish your connection for your trunk port or access port, however you're connecting into your main network. This exact same procedure can be applied the exact same way. The only difference in a new switch deployment, the only difference is when you pull that config from an existing switch, you massage it a little bit, make sure your access ports are all lined up or your trunk ports are all lined up, make sure that config document's a little bit changed, and then you can push it right back out with TFTP and get it going. So it's a quick way to be able to get, maybe like local hands at another site, being able to, hey, look, I need a switch that's dedicated to connecting to other switches. Use it as a distribution point, connect to 3, 5, 10, maybe 20 switches, how many ever you're replacing at that site, and then go through real quick, hit the console connection, get them remote access. Once you get remote access into them via SSH, then you can SSH into them, telnet startup config into them, but make sure you put that uh, DHCP config in there as well for an unused port, and then reboot them, let them load. You can still look at them, you can still manage them, and then just go over and remove those connections when possible. So that's it for today. Hope to see you next time.